Hi and welcome today. Thank you for joining me. Today we're going to talk about family conversations and connecting with your teen. It's November. We've been in school for a few months now, and sometimes family members and the adults can feel a little disconnected from our teens, a little frustrated because we don't know what's going on, or like we're just not on the same page, or we just kind of feel like, they're becoming their own people and we just want to improve our relationship with our teens. So today we're going to talk about some of the basics of connecting with teens. Because teens, we talk about this a lot, developmentally, they're exploring their identity. They're changing really physically. They're questioning everything about the family. They're taking some risks, and they may be more inclined to talk to other people in their lives other than their family members, because they're pushing. They're pushing their boundaries. They're trying to figure out who they are. But communication is really key because it's one of the most important goals for us to maintain a relationship and communication with our teens, so that when they become adults, they have learned the trust, and we have built that open communication that is key to helping our students, our teens, understand that we are there for them as we move from being sort of the manager of everything in their life to a mentor at the side of their life, and the person who's there that they can come to and ask for advice, guidance. Not that they're going to follow everything that we say when they are young adults any more than we followed absolutely everything our parents said, but that understanding that they have a trusting adult who encourages them, supports them, is growing to understand them because they don't understand themselves all the time, but is someone that's always in their corner. So it's a hard thing to have a conversation with the teen. It really is, because of all the factors that we just talked about. They're growing, they're developing, they're sort of trying to push the mute button on us. They don't really want to hear what we have to say because we have been the person in their lives who has always been there and has managed everything. So as they are thinking about who they are, of course, they're going to try to push us away. So it's easy for us to say, well, there's really no time to have a conversation. And, they look like they're doing okay. And, if they know I'm always here, no matter what. And they know, I mean, unconditionally, I love my kids. I care. I tell them all the time. I hug them every day. And the sort of status quo can be okay for us because we think, well, nothing bad is happening, so I'm not going to deal with it. But really, when things are okay, that's sort of the time to build trust, put that, build the foundation of that trust, so that when things are not going okay, because we know in all of our lives, there are days when are great, just walking around like, hey, look at me. And there's days when you're like, oh my gosh, I can't get through today. This is a horrible day. And you just want to find that trusted soul, that trusted person that you can talk to, who will have your back no matter what. And I really hope that all of you who are listening have that person in your life. But we want to start these good communication skills with our teens now, because that's what's going to last them for the rest of their lives. And it really will help you and your teen feel healthier, to have a positive relationship, and work out any kind of communication difficulties now, so that those are not what are standing in the way to true communication and moving forward in a relationship in the future, right? Because your teenager still needs to know that you're interested, and that you are watching them, and that you care and you're on their side. Even if you don't agree with them, they need to know that you are there. And so what do we want to do in terms of like good communication, because right now, having communication with a teen that is trying to push away from you or trying to figure out what they're doing on their own can be a challenge. So let's talk for just a minute about good communication. So when you have good communication, both people on either side of the conversation feel freely to talk about their feelings and they really feel heard and understood. That doesn't mean that you categorically just accept what they say, but you hear them and you make sure that they know that they're valued. You talk about lots of things and you feel comfortable talking about them, even the tough things. And any of you think for just a moment, can think about what would be a tough subject to talk to your teen about. But in good communication, there's an easy flow of sharing of information. And you both know that there's not going to be any kind of judgment and no sort of putting the other person off, because you know you're loved and cared about. And you know that when you have those deep conversations, you're going to have the other person's undivided attention, because talking and communicating with teens can be really, really tough. And in really busy households, it can be really easy to overlook time and making the space to build the trust that goes into those communications and find out what's happening in a teen's life. Because it's going to be work. It's going to be work for you as the adult to listen to what's happening with your teen and really key in on them and give them your undivided attention so that they know you're there, because our teens are more independent. And so we have to make time to be judgment-free, no consequences, but still have the teen understanding. Yesterday, remember when we talked about expanding their possibilities and sharing power, we talked about the fact that sharing power means that you bring them in on the rationale behind the decision making. You're not ceding power. But when you're having conversations with your teen and there are those open-ended conversations, that's when you want to make sure that if they say something that's you don't agree with, that you can be open and honest and judgment-free to have the conversations around, hey, those don't really reflect the values of our family, but you can do it in a judgment-free, inconsequential way, so that they understand that's not an accepted behavior, but you can still have those conversations. So remember, we talk a lot about teenage brain development, that our brains, all of our brains, go from the back to the forward, and they're not fully developed until you are around 25 years old. So this last 10 years, what we call adolescence, isn't it funny that when they're in their 20s, they're still considered adolescents? That in adolescence, the brain is still developing from the back to the front. So your frontal lobe, what develops last, is where good decision and rational decision making is made. And so what we're doing when we're having conversations is we're helping them develop those neural pathways so that they can have the experience in making good decisions and having good kinds of communication, right? Having the strategies and understanding what it takes to have a good communication and with someone else, and how to not like fly off the handle and be angry and walk away, slamming doors. We are the people that have to model that. The adults whose brains are fully formed have to model that for our teens, so that our teens know what it looks like, right? So if our teens, all they see is flying off the handles and slamming doors and getting up and walking away, and I can't do this, then they're not really kind of understanding what it means to have a good open communication with unconditional positive regard, like that judgment-free zone. If you don't remember anything else about having communication with your team, as we talk about strategies, remember it's a judgment-free zone. And really it means open, clear communication. And I love this Chinese character that I got from a colleague of mine at Stevenson. She's in the student services department. And this she shared with a bunch of us is the Chinese character for listen. And the Chinese character for listen is made up of very multiple smaller words. And those different words together give all the qualities of good listening. So when you are listening to someone unconditionally, you're listening with your mind, which means you're considering what the other person is saying and you're processing it. When you're listening with your heart, it means you care about what the other person is saying and you're picking up those undertones, right? So if your teen is talking to you about something that they have just really scared about, or they're really feeling, your heart is listening to their heart. And it's that altruism, it's that feeling that you are listening so deeply that you're not going over what happened in the meeting today in your head or what is happening for dinner. You're really hearing them with your heart, and your eyes are picking up on all their nonverbal body language, right? Are they sitting like this? Are they timid? Or are they just trying to hold it in because they're so angry? Or what are they doing? But your eyes can just take in. So your heart is listening, your mind is trying to figure out what they're telling you, your eyes are looking at them, and finally you are giving them your undivided attention. Because think about it, have you ever been in a conversation with someone, the person is really keying in on you and making you feel heard, felt, appreciated, wanted, warm? It's almost like falling into a hug, because they're taking the time to really hear what you're saying. So what does that look like? I have some sentence starters. This is all created, this environment is created by you. It's created by you creating a safe space for your team to feel like they can speak to you. Excuse me. It's the right time. It's the right place. It's without other people listening to judge if there's a sibling or something in the house that may come in and have a dismissive comment. Invite that sibling not to be part of the conversation. Because when you're really trying to connect and communicate with your team, you want them to know that you are there. Stop what you're doing. Give them your undivided attention. Listen, like we said, with your eyes, with your ears, with your heart. Pick up on how they're feeling about things. Ask open-ended questions and try to summarize what you understand. And if they say, excuse me, that's not what I'm saying, say, I'm really sorry. Can you try to explain it in a different way so I can better understand where you're coming from? It's all about you being sort of the servant listener to what they're saying, so that they don't feel, no matter what they're saying, they don't feel shame or blame, no judgment. They know they can take the time to talk to you. And you know, one of the things that's really impactful when you open yourself up to someone else is when the other person comes back at you and says, thank you. Thank you for sharing what you're telling me. Thank you for trusting in me and telling me that. It's just sort of that unconditional validation that oftentimes people who are going through a lot of things need to say, yeah, this is a safe place for me to talk. This is a safe place for me to think about verbally what I have to say or share what I have to say. And that's what you want to do. Maybe you might have a hard time connecting because you have a really busy schedule. You know, this is after COVID. It feels like everything is back to normal. But for many of us, we can't believe how busy we were before we were not busy. And so it feels like still it's kind of jarring. So if that's the case, schedule a time and place to talk. Hey, I really want to catch up with you. What's going on? Let's make breakfast together, and then let's just sit down together and eat breakfast and have a really good conversation. I want to hear about what's happening with you. Just ask if you can hang out for a little bit so that you can connect with them. Maybe it's really hard to start a conversation because it's been really long and you're not sure about how to start the conversation. So I shared some sentence starters that you might want to think about using, because your teen may be reticent to start a conversation with you. And then when they do start talking to you, it's a really good idea to summarize what they've said and reflect back to them. Ask them open-ended questions about what they've said. And listen with an open ear before you try to solve their problems, right? So maybe they're telling you about problems with friends or problems at work. At school. And we, as the adults in their lives, want to solve everything for them, right? Oh, I've got to do this. And maybe because we've had so many more years of experience. But don't try to problem solve until after they're done. And then ask, do you want to know what I might want it? I would do? Do you want to hear how I may do it? They may say to you, no. And guess what? Then you're building trust, right? You're building an open, honest communication, judgment-free zone. Say, okay, if you ever want to know, I'm happy to share. Try really hard not to share. It's probably the hardest thing in the world to do. But the best thing in the world for you to do is to hear their needs, listen to them when they're navigating through their feelings. If you feel like maybe there's something that it's difficult for you to listen to, but maybe that their counselor can help them with, please don't ever forget that a counselor is always there to hear. Let me make sure that I've got this straight. That's tough. What were you thinking about? Those kind of open-ended questions are great. Do you want to hear what I would do? If they say no, you got to just go. But to summarize today, most important thing about a conversation with your teen is judgment-free zone, undivided attention, hearing with your eyes, look at what's their body language, hear with your heart, feel what they're feeling. Undivided attention, really watch what they're doing and how they're trying to communicate with you. You are building trust. We're building the foundation for conversations well into adulthood. It's not going to happen with one conversation. It'll happen with multiple conversations. Next week, we're going to dive a little bit further into that. But tomorrow, we're going to talk about social awareness for your teens, all part of conversations, all part of being in relationships and understanding one another, understanding the people around you. We'll talk about that tomorrow at 12 o'clock again. Thank you very much for joining me today. I appreciate it. I hope you're having a great November. I can't believe we're already into November 10th. Take care of yourself. Be good to yourself. And thank you very much for joining me today. Bye-bye, everyone.